It was a morning unlike any other. The town, once wrapped in the grey, lifeless chill of autumn, had been transformed overnight. Snowflakes, delicate and white, danced through the cold air, blanketing everything beneath them. Trees wore their frosty coats proudly, and the world shimmered in the brilliance of winter's first touch. Even the streets, once filled with dirt and grime, were now hidden beneath pristine snow, offering a fresh start to a weary town. Anna paused as she walked to work, taking in the beauty of the scene. She could feel the cold air biting at her cheeks, but it didn't matter. There was something calming about the snow, something that made her forget the worries of her life, if only for a moment. As she walked, her mind drifted to the troubles of the past few months. Times were tough in the early 90s. She and her husband Martin, both teachers, had been struggling to make ends meet. The school hadn't paid them for 3 months, and the promises of a better future felt more like empty words. Anna tried to push the fear from her mind, but it lingered. Martin, once a dedicated teacher, had left the profession to try his luck in business. He had started trading goods, jeans, sweaters, sneakers. But Anna wasn't sure if it would be enough. She feared for him, for their children, and especially for their son, Jonah, whose surgery they still couldn't afford. Anna smiled, thinking of her children, Jonah and Kristen. Jonah, just 6 years old, had a heart defect, and without the surgery, his future seemed uncertain. It was a cruel irony. She had once thought that the greatest joy of her life was raising them, but now it felt like a cruel challenge. Every day was a battle, and though she tried to keep her smile, her heart was heavy with worry. Anna arrived at school with a forced smile, trying to shake off the weight that seemed to follow her every step. Inside the teacher's lounge, her colleagues were deep in conversation, but Anna barely paid attention. Her thoughts were on her family, on Martin's new venture, on the money they still didn't have, and most of all, on Jonah's health. "Have you heard about Jordan Ross?" Margot, the senior literature teacher, asked, breaking Anna's train of thought. "That troublemaker from 7th grade, the one who broke my window because I gave him a D for plagiarism." Anna glanced up, hearing the name, Jordan Ross. He had been a student at the school years ago, known for his rebellious nature and endless pranks. Anna didn't remember him well, but it seemed like everyone else did. "I remember that kid," chimed in the gym teacher Matthew. "He set the school magazine on fire once. All sorts of trouble." Anna frowned, feeling uncomfortable at the mention of his name. She had no idea why they were discussing him, but the tone of their conversation suggested they weren't exactly fans. "Jordan Ross is not that person anymore." Stephanie, the school director, intervened. "He's a businessman now, well respected in town. He's offered to help us with renovations for the gymnasium. No charge. We'll be meeting with him tomorrow." Anna nodded, unsure of how to feel about this sudden change. A businessman now with a reputation in the town. How had he gone from the troublemaker she'd heard about to this supposed benefactor? Something didn't sit right with her. She had been through enough bad experiences to know that appearances could be deceiving. Her thoughts were interrupted as Stephanie turned to her. "Anna, you're in charge of Class A, right? Prepare a small event for tomorrow's meeting with Mr. Ross. I want your students to recite poems, sing a song, something to welcome him." Anna took a deep breath, trying to push her concerns aside. She had enough to deal with. The last thing she wanted was to add another task to her already overwhelming list. But duty called, and she couldn't say no. The day had passed in a blur of lessons and preparations for the event, and Anna was finally heading home. She couldn't shake off the unease that had settled in her chest. The meeting with Jordan Ross tomorrow felt like something she couldn't fully prepare for, and she still didn't understand why he was coming back to their town after all these years. When she walked into the hallway of their small home, the smell of something delicious greeted her. Martin had finished work early that day, and it seemed he had made a special dinner for the family. Anna's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this. "Hello, dear," Martin called from the kitchen. I made some pork for dinner. It's a treat tonight. Come sit down. Anna blinked, taken aback by the sight. Pork. They hadn't had anything like that in a long time. Where did you get it? She asked, trying to mask the surprise in her voice. I made a barter deal with a guy from the market. Martin explained with a grin. I swapped some jeans for it. Thought we deserved a little treat. Anna's smile faded slightly, remembering the mounting bills, the looming surgery costs for Jonah, and the fact that they hadn't paid their rent in months. Martin, we need money more than we need pork right now, she said softly. But Martin was already walking towards her, arms open. By spring, I'll have enough for Jonah's surgery. Don't worry. A little meat won't hurt him. Besides, he might not even eat it. Anna nodded, trying to put her worries aside. She could see the stress in Martin's eyes. He was doing his best, but she wasn't sure it was enough. They were on the brink of losing everything, and there was no safety net. At the dinner table, the children sat eagerly, ready for the rare treat. Kristen, 7 years old, couldn't stop talking about the upcoming event at school. Jonah, though, seemed quieter than usual. His hand rested lightly over his chest, as if trying to comfort the heart that had always been fragile. Anna tried to push the thought of Jonah's heart out of her mind. Tonight, they would eat, laugh, and pretend for a while that everything would be okay. The next morning, the family went about their usual routines. The children went off to daycare, and Anna and Martin headed to their respective workplaces. The day felt like any other until the event in the school gymnasium. The principal, Stephanie, seemed unusually anxious as the time for Jordan Ross's arrival drew near. The teachers were divided in their opinions. Some were eager to meet the successful businessman, while others remained skeptical of his sudden generosity. As the clock struck noon, a sleek black SUV pulled into the school parking lot, and out stepped a tall man in his mid-30s. His confident stride and sharp suit made him appear out of place in their quiet town, but his presence was undeniable. This was Jordan Ross, the same troubled student from years ago. Stephanie greeted him warmly, and they headed inside to the school office. Anna, feeling a strange pull to the event, found herself standing by the gym doors, watching the students rehearse. The children recited poems about their beloved school, their voices full of hope and excitement for the guest. But Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As the event began, Anna was instructed to greet Jordan in front of the teachers and the students. She gave a brief introduction, her nerves palpable. She had to smile, to appear professional, but her mind kept drifting back to her family's struggles. Jordan's eyes lingered on Anna, a predatory glint in his gaze as he exchanged brief pleasantries with the other teachers. But it wasn't until he approached Anna directly that she felt a shiver run down her spine. "What a charming group of teachers we have here," he said, flashing her a grin that made her skin crawl. There was something unsettling in his tone, something that didn't match the fast aid of a businessman. Anna nodded awkwardly, offering a tight smile. "Thank you, Mr. Ross. We're honored to have you here." The event proceeded without incident. But Anna couldn't shake the unease that clung to her. She knew nothing about this man, yet her instincts told her to stay far away from him. As the day ended and the students returned to their classrooms, the teachers filed out, eager to get back to their routines. But Anna remained behind for a moment, her thoughts swirling. Jordan Ross was no longer the same rebellious teenager she had heard about. He was something more dangerous now, and she couldn't help but feel like he was hiding something. She needed to keep her guard up, especially with what he had promised to do for the school. Nothing came without a price. The school day ended, and Anna was finally on her way home. The events of the day lingered in her mind, the cold, calculated charm of Jordan Ross, and the strange sense that something wasn't right. She couldn't pinpoint it, but every instinct told her that he wasn't the man he appeared to be. The tension between them had been palpable, and she couldn't shake the unease that settled deep in her chest. As Anna neared the school gates, she collided with someone. She looked up, startled, only to find herself face to face with Jordan. He was standing near the entrance, casually smoking a cigarette and staring off into the distance. "Oh, I'm sorry," she murmured, trying to sidestep him, but he stepped in her way. "Where are you off to in such a hurry?" Jordan asked, his voice smooth, almost too calm. "Can I offer you a ride?" Anna froze, her heart pounding. Something about his presence made her uncomfortable, but she didn't want to appear rude. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. "I'm in a rush to get home. My son is unwell." Jordan's expression softened for a brief moment. "I'm sorry to hear that. Let me give you a lift. It's the least I can do after today." Before Anna could protest, he opened the door to his sleek black car. Reluctantly, she climbed in, her mind racing with thoughts of her son Jonah and the uncertainty that plagued her. As they drove, she found herself talking about Jonah's heart condition, the surgery that was needed, and how they were struggling to make ends meet. It felt strange, confiding in a man she barely knew, but there was something about him that made her voice falter. She could hear her own words spilling out, and for a moment she wondered why. Jordan listened quietly, nodding occasionally as he drove, but something in his gaze seemed off, almost calculating. Anna couldn't help but feel that he was using her vulnerability, her desperation, to manipulate her. He had offered a solution to her problem, and she had taken the bait without fully understanding the cost. When they arrived at her house, she thanked him stiffly. She wanted to escape the conversation, but something in his eyes made her pause. "Anna," he said, his voice low, "I know what it's like to struggle. You'll get through this. But remember, if you need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask." Anna nodded, her gut twisting. "Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it." She stepped out of the car, feeling a chill run down her spine as the door slammed shut behind her. As the car drove off into the fading light, Anna stood at the door, staring after it. There was no clear reason why she felt so uneasy, but she couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion in her mind. Jordan Ross was trouble, and trouble, she knew, always had a way of finding you. That night, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that she had made a mistake. She tried to focus on the mundane tasks of life, cooking dinner, helping the kids with their homework, but everything felt out of place. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Jordan. Why had she trusted him? The more she thought about it, the more she realized that she knew nothing about him. All she had were the promises he made, the smooth words he spoke. But in the back of her mind, a cold voice warned her that nothing was ever as it seemed. Martin had come home late again. He was exhausted from his business dealings, but he seemed happy. There was a subtle relief in his eyes. They had gotten a large shipment in, and he was hoping it would be the break they needed. But Anna wasn't sure if it was enough. The surgery, the mounting bills, the constant pressure, it was too much. As they sat down for dinner, Anna smiled at her children, forcing herself to focus on the present. Jonah, though, seemed distant. He picked at his food, his small hands trembling slightly. It was the same tremor she had noticed before, the one that reminded her of the fragile heart beating inside his chest. "Jonah, are you okay?" she asked gently. He nodded, but his face told a different story. "I'm fine, Mom." But Anna could see the worry in his eyes. She knew that worry wasn't just about the food on his plate. It was about the fear of what was to come. Fear of the surgery. Fear of what might happen if they couldn't afford it. Anna placed a reassuring hand on his, but deep down, she knew she wasn't offering him the comfort he truly needed. The following day, Anna received an unexpected phone call at work. The daycare had called her into the office urgently. Her heart skipped a beat as she rushed to the phone. "Anna, it's Jonah. He's not feeling well. We're calling an ambulance." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Anna's stomach turned. Her hands shook as she tried to steady herself. "What happened?" she managed to ask, her voice tight. "He's struggling to breathe. It's his heart. We're sending him to the hospital now. Please come as soon as you can." Anna hung up the phone, her mind reeling. Jonah had been fine just this morning. What had happened? She didn't even think to tell her colleagues she was leaving. She just grabbed her coat and rushed out the door, her thoughts a blur as she headed toward the hospital. When she arrived, the doctors were already working on Jonah. They rushed him into an emergency room, and Anna was left in the waiting area pacing. Her heart raced as she thought about the surgery they couldn't afford, the money they still didn't have. What would happen if they couldn't pay? While Anna sat anxiously in the hospital, the minutes stretching into hours, she was caught off guard when a familiar black SUV pulled up in front of the emergency room. Her heart sank when she saw Jordan stepping out of the car, a look of concern on his face. "Anna," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle, "I heard about Jonah. Let me give you a ride to the hospital. It's the least I can do." Anna hesitated, her instincts telling her to refuse. But the hospital was overcrowded, and there were no taxis available. She didn't have much of a choice. Reluctantly, she got into his car. As they drove, Jordan didn't speak much, but his presence was heavy, and Anna couldn't help but feel trapped. She glanced at him, wondering what his true intentions were. Why was he offering to help her, especially after everything she had learned about him? "We'll get him the help he needs," Jordan said quietly, his voice softer now. "You don't need to worry about money. I can help with that." Anna's chest tightened as she stared out the window, unsure of how to respond. She didn't want to rely on him, but she didn't have a choice. Jonah needed this surgery, and she was running out of options. Anna finally managed to settle Jonah into a hospital room, and after hours of medical attention, his condition stabilized. The doctors told her it would be a long road to recovery, but they were hopeful. That evening, Anna found herself alone with her thoughts. She sat beside Jonah's bed, looking at his fragile face. She couldn't bear the thought of losing him. Jordan's offer still lingered in her mind. It was tempting, too tempting. He had promised to help, to cover the costs of Jonah's surgery. Anna knew she couldn't turn him down, but a small voice inside her warned that accepting his help might come with a price. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was the hospital receptionist. "Anna, we have a visitor," she said. When Anna stepped into the hallway, she was greeted by a familiar face, Jordan. He held out an envelope. "This is for Jonah's surgery," he said, his smile wide and cold. "It's all taken care of. Don't worry about anything." Anna hesitated, her stomach churning as she took the envelope. Inside, she found enough money to cover the surgery, the hospital bills, and more. It was more than she could have ever imagined, but the unease in her gut only grew stronger. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaky. But as she glanced at Jordan, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. She had no idea what he wanted in return. The next morning, Anna tried to push the thoughts of Jordan and his money out of her mind. Jonah was recovering, and that was all that mattered. But when she returned to her apartment that evening, the phone rang, and she recognized the number immediately. It was Jordan. "Anna," he said casually, "I just wanted to check in. How's Jonah doing? Is everything okay?" Anna's heart skipped a beat. "He's fine," she said, trying to sound normal. "The surgery went well. Thank you for your help." "Of course," Jordan replied, his tone shifting. "But don't forget, I helped you, Anna. You owe me." Anna's blood ran cold. She didn't want to believe what she was hearing, but the way Jordan said it made her stomach twist. She was in debt to him now, and she had no idea what he would ask for in return. The days after Jonah's surgery were filled with a mixture of relief and unease. He was stable, but his recovery was slow. Anna spent most of her time at the hospital, keeping a vigil at his bedside. She tried to remain hopeful, but the weight of Jordan's words echoed in her mind. "You owe me." It wasn't long before Jordan made another call. Anna was at home, preparing dinner for the children when her phone rang. "Anna?" Jordan's voice was smooth, as if nothing had changed. "I know Jonah's recovery is important, but there's something I need you to do for me." Anna froze, her hand hovering over the stove. She had been dreading this moment. "What do you need?" she asked, her voice cautious. "I'm having some issues with the market and I need a favor. It's simple. Just come by tomorrow and meet with a few people who can help sort things out. I promise it won't take long. And don't worry, it's for the best." Anna hesitated. The last time she had gotten involved with Jordan's business, it had cost her peace of mind. But she knew better than to argue. What choice did she have? Jonah's medical bills still loomed large, and Martin's business was struggling to stay afloat. "I'll be there," she said, though every part of her resisted. The next day, Anna arrived at Jordan's office, her stomach in knots. She didn't know what to expect, but she feared the worst. As she entered the sleek building, she was greeted by Jordan's cold smile. "Good to see you, Anna," he said. "I knew you'd come. Let's not waste time." They walked into a large, dimly lit room where several men sat at a long table. They looked at Anna with a mixture of curiosity and indifference, but none of them spoke. Jordan stood at the head of the table, gesturing for Anna to sit. "I'm sure you're wondering why you're here," he said, his voice low and calculating. "These are some of my associates. They handle certain arrangements. I need you to sign something, and then everything will be set. We'll take care of your problems. Jonah's health, the debts, all of it." Anna's heart raced. She couldn't help but feel like a pawn in a game she didn't understand. "What exactly am I signing?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Nothing too complicated," Jordan replied, sliding a piece of paper toward her. "Just an agreement that you'll support my ventures in the future. A small commitment, nothing more." Anna's hand hovered over the paper. She didn't want to sign, but she couldn't shake the feeling that rejecting him might cost her more than she was willing to pay. Taking a deep breath, she signed the document, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. As soon as Anna left the meeting, she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She had made a deal with the devil, and now she wasn't sure how to get out. The men in the room, the way they watched her, it all felt wrong. She headed straight home, hoping to escape the sinking feeling that followed her. Martin was waiting for her in the kitchen when she walked in. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice full of concern. Anna didn't look at him. She couldn't. She had sold her soul for the money they needed, and there was no turning back now. "It's taken care of," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Martin's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I signed an agreement," Anna replied, sitting down at the table. "We'll be okay now. Jordan's helping us." Martin didn't say anything for a long moment, just staring at her. Finally, he spoke. "Anna, what have you done?" The next few days were a blur. Anna tried to focus on Jonah's recovery, but the guilt gnawed at her every waking moment. She had crossed a line, and she couldn't go back. Jordan was now in control, and she feared what would come next. Jonah seemed to be improving, but Anna's worries only deepened. She could feel the weight of the debt she had signed on to, and with each passing day, it became harder to escape the dark cloud that had settled over her life. That evening, as Anna sat by Jonah's bedside, her phone rang again. It was Jordan. "Anna," he said, his voice casual, "I trust everything is going well with Jonah. I just wanted to remind you that I'm counting on you. You'll do what's required, won't you?" Anna swallowed hard. She had no choice. "Yes, of course," she said, her voice shaking. "I'll do whatever you need." The next day, Jordan's demands became clearer. He showed up at her doorstep with a group of men, and Anna's heart dropped into her stomach. "Anna, you've done your part," Jordan said with a smile. "Now it's time for me to collect. I need you to attend a business meeting with me. It's just a formality, but you need to be there." Anna's mind raced as she looked at the men standing behind him. They were all dressed in suits, but the coldness in their eyes made her feel like prey. "I don't know if I can do this," she said, feeling the tears welling up. "I've already helped you. What else do you want from me?" Jordan's smile widened. "Anna, you signed an agreement. You agreed to help me. This is just the next step. Her hands trembled as she took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had no choice. She had already given so much. I'll go, she said, her voice hollow. But I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Jordan laughed softly. You don't get to decide that, Anna. You're in this for the long haul now. Anna sat nervously in the back of Jordan's car as they drove to the meeting. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. The men with Jordan were silent, and the city passed by in a blur of lights and shadows. When they arrived at the meeting location, a sleek building that looked more like a fortress than a business office, Anna hesitated before stepping out of the car. She felt trapped, like she was walking into a web she couldn't escape. Inside, the meeting room was sterile, with cold, polished surfaces and no windows. At the head of the table, a man in a suit greeted Jordan with a nod. This is Anna, Jordan said. She's here to help. Anna forced a smile, but inside, she felt anything but calm. She had been pulled into a world she didn't understand, and the consequences of her decisions were becoming clearer with every passing moment. She was no longer just a mother trying to save her son. She was a pawn in a dangerous game. The meeting dragged on, and Anna sat silently as the men discussed business matters she didn't comprehend. Jordan kept glancing at her, as if waiting for her to say or do something. But she remained silent, her mind racing, trying to find a way out. After the meeting, Jordan took Anna aside, his smile as cold as ever. Anna, he said quietly, you've been very helpful. But there's one more thing I need from you. Anna's stomach twisted. She had known it was coming. She had known it all along. What do you need? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jordan leaned in closer, his eyes dark with something Anna couldn't quite place. I need you to get involved in some of my other dealings. You'll be compensated, of course, but I need you to be fully on board. You can't back out now. You've already committed. Anna felt her heart race. She had already gone too far, but this was crossing a line. She didn't want to be involved in anything illegal. She didn't want to become the person Jordan was pushing her to be. I can't, she said, her voice shaking. I've already done too much. Please, I can't do this. Jordan's face hardened. You don't have a choice, Anna. You're in this now. You owe me. You'll do what's required, and I'll make sure Jonah gets the surgery he needs. Anna's mind swirled with panic. She had no idea what she was getting herself into, and now there was no way out. That night, Anna returned home, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she had made. She had no idea how to explain it to Martin or to her children. She felt like a shell of the person she once was. Jonah was asleep in his bed, his breathing steady, but Anna couldn't find peace. She sat by his bedside, her thoughts clouded with guilt and fear. Martin came in quietly, his face weary from another long day of work. He sat beside Anna and placed a hand on her shoulder. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said softly. What's going on? Anna took a deep breath, her voice trembling. I signed an agreement with Jordan. He's been helping us, Martin. But now he's asking more. I don't know what to do. Martin's face darkened. Anna, you didn't? I didn't have a choice, she interrupted. You don't understand. Jonah's surgery were out of options. I had to do it. But now I'm trapped, Martin. I don't know how to get out. Martin stared at her, his jaw clenched. This isn't you, Anna. You don't belong in this world. You're a teacher. A mother, you don't need him. We'll find another way. We'll get through this together. But Anna wasn't so sure. The weight of her decisions was crushing, and she felt more lost than ever. She didn't know how they were going to survive this, how they would find a way out of the mess she had created. The next few days were a blur of fear and uncertainty. Jordan's influence seemed to be closing in around Anna, and every step she took felt like it was leading her deeper into his world. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything other than the looming sense of dread. One morning, Jordan called again. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Anna, He said, "I think it's time for us to meet again. There's something we need to discuss." Anna's heart raced. She didn't want to meet with him, but she knew she had no choice. When she arrived, Jordan was waiting for her in his office, a smirk on his face. He didn't waste any time. "I've been thinking about our arrangement," he said, his voice smooth. "I think I've been too patient with you, Anna, and I think it's time we moved to the next step. You'll need to do something for me that will solidify your commitment." Anna's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" Jordan's eyes gleamed with something dangerous. "I need you to help me with a business deal. It's simple. I'll take care of everything for you and you'll be set for life. Your family will never have to worry again." Anna swallowed hard. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Jordan said, his grin widening. "Just do your part and we'll all benefit. You'll be my partner in this, a full partner." Anna's mind was racing. She had already made one mistake by signing that agreement with Jordan, but now he wanted more. He wanted her involved in his business. No, he wanted her to be a partner in whatever shady deals he was running. She didn't know what to do. She couldn't turn back, not now. But she didn't want to become the person Jordan was trying to make her. The thought of her children, of Jonah's surgery, of the future, kept her trapped in a corner. "Please, Jordan," she said, her voice trembling, "I can't do this. I'm not that person. I'm not you." Jordan's expression darkened. "You don't have a choice, Anna. You signed the contract. You owe me. And if you don't follow through, I'll make sure you regret it." The walls seemed to close in on Anna. She was stuck, tied to a man whose influence was suffocating her, with no clear way out. She had no idea how she was going to get out of this mess, but deep down, she knew one thing for certain: the price of Jordan's help would be higher than she could ever afford. The following days felt like a nightmare that Anna couldn't wake up from. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jordan's face, his cold smile, his dark eyes. He had offered her a way out: money, stability, the promise of a better future. But the price was more than she could afford. Anna's thoughts were consumed with guilt, fear, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. She didn't know how to get out of this, how to protect her family, or even if she could go back to the way things were before Jordan had entered their lives. The deal she had made had cost her peace, and now it seemed to be costing her soul. One evening, as she sat at the kitchen table, staring at the bill from the hospital, the phone rang again. It was Jordan. "Anna." His voice was as smooth as ever. "I need you to meet me tomorrow. There's something important we need to discuss." She didn't want to. She didn't want to have anything more to do with him. But the words she had spoken to Martin echoed in her mind. "We'll find another way." And so, reluctantly, she agreed. The next day, Anna found herself sitting across from Jordan in a dimly lit room. His cold smile was back, and as he leaned in closer, she felt the air grow colder. "Anna," he said softly, "it's time to pay your dues. We have a deal, remember? And now, it's time for you to fulfill your part of the bargain." Anna's heart raced. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jordan's grin widened. "I need you to help me with a little business arrangement. You see, there are some people who owe me a lot of money, and I need you to use your influence at the school to pressure them into paying up. It's simple. Really." Anna's blood ran cold. "You want me to threaten them? To hurt them?" Jordan's smile remained. "Not physically, of course. But a little pressure can go a long way. You'll do it, Anna. You have no choice." The room seemed to spin. Anna couldn't breathe. She had signed that damned agreement, and now there was no escape. She had never been a person who used others for her own gain, let alone hurt people. But she was trapped. She had no choice. "I'll do it," she whispered, defeated. "But I won't like it." The next few days felt like a blur. Anna went to work trying to act normal, but her mind was consumed with the weight of her decisions. She had done things she never thought she would do, and now there was no going back. As the pressure mounted, she found herself standing in front of a group of teachers, trying to convince them to support Jordan's latest business venture. She didn't want to do this. She didn't want to pressure her colleagues, but she was powerless to stop it. And then one of her colleagues, Margot, the senior literature teacher, spoke up. "I'm not comfortable with this, Anna," she said, her voice firm. "Something about this whole thing doesn't sit right with me. What are you really asking us to do?" Anna's heart skipped a beat. Margot knew. She could feel it in her bones. And in that moment, everything crashed down on her. The guilt, the fear, the anger, everything she had been pushing aside came rushing to the surface. I don't know," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm just trying to make things right. For my son, for my family." Margot looked at her with concern. "You're in over your head, Anna, and I think it's time you get out." That night, Anna sat alone in the dark, her thoughts in chaos. She couldn't keep living like this. She couldn't keep being a pawn in Jordan's game. But the fear of what would happen if she tried to back out kept her paralyzed. But then a thought struck her, a spark of hope. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe there was a way out. Anna called Martin, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Martin, I need to tell you something. I've made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I want to fix this. I want to get out of this mess. I need your help." Martin was quiet for a long moment, but when he spoke, his voice was firm. "We'll fix this together, Anna. I promise you. We'll find a way out." And in that moment, for the first time in weeks, Anna felt like she had a chance. She wasn't alone. She wasn't trapped anymore. The next morning, Anna went to the police. She told them everything. About Jordan, about the deals, about the pressure he had put on her. She was ready to fight back, to stop running from the man who had tried to control her life. The police took her statement seriously, and they promised to investigate. Anna knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was finally taking control of her own life. Later that day, Anna went to Jordan's office. He was waiting for her, his usual smug expression plastered on his face. "I've done what you asked," Anna said, her voice steady. "But I won't be your pawn anymore. I'm done." Jordan's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "You think you can escape this, Anna? You think you've won?" Anna stood tall, the fear in her eyes replaced by determination. "Yes, I do." And with that, she walked out of the building for the last time. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. But Anna knew one thing for sure. She had her family, and that was all that mattered. They would rebuild together. And no one, not even Jordan Ross, would ever have control over her life again.